Chapter 1. The Boy Who Wanted to See the World. Joseph Bates grew up in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, a town that smelled of salt water and sounded like creaking docks, rattling rigging, and the distant cries of gulls. The harbor was full of tall-masted vessels from faraway places. Sometimes he would see sailors carrying crates stamped with strange names: Lisbon, Havana, London. Joseph's father, a veteran of the Revolutionary War, would tell him stories of marching with General Lafayette, sleeping in cold tents, and crossing wide rivers. Joseph listened wide-eyed. But it was the sight of ships leaving the harbor, their sails swelling with wind, that stirred something even deeper inside him. On warm summer evenings, he would sit on a worn piece of driftwood and watch the horizon. Somewhere out there, he thought, is the other side of the world. I want to see it. One night, he decided to tell his mother. "Mother," he began, "I want to be a sailor. I want to see where the ships go." She looked up from stirring the pot over the fire. "Joseph, the sea is no place for a boy. Storms rise out of nowhere. Waves taller than a house can smash a ship to pieces. And sickness, many a sailor never comes home." "But mother," Joseph insisted, "I'll be careful. I'll work hard. I want to see the world." She shook her head. "You're safer here on land." For weeks, Joseph tried to be content, but his eyes kept drifting toward the harbor. He helped his father carry goods to the wharf just to get closer to the ships. He studied the sailors, how they coiled ropes, tied knots, and climbed the rigging like monkeys. Every time a vessel disappeared beyond the horizon, he felt a pull in his chest. Then, one spring day, a new ship arrived in port. She was called the Fanny, her hull freshly painted, her sails white and crisp. Captain Elias Terry stood on deck, giving orders in a voice that carried over the water. She was bound for London, England. Joseph's father spoke with the captain and came home with news that made Joseph's heart race. "Captain Terry will take you as cabin boy," his father said. "Truly?" Joseph gasped. "Truly," his father replied with a smile. "But remember, the sea is a hard teacher. You'll work from dawn till dark." Captain Terry had chuckled when they shook hands. "I'll teach him the ropes, but the ocean will teach him more than I ever could." A few weeks later, in June of 1807, Joseph stood on the deck of the Fanny as she cast off her lines. The air smelled of tar and salt. The sailors shouted to one another, the sails snapped in the breeze, and slowly the ship glided out into Long Island Sound. The journey to New York Harbor meant passing through a place the sailors called Hell Gate. Joseph soon saw why. The channel was narrow, with jagged rocks on one side and a rocky shore on the other. The tide rushed through with a roar like a wild animal. More than one ship had been smashed there. The pilot took the wheel. "All hands on deck," he barked. "Man your posts. Keep silent so you can hear my orders." Joseph gripped a rope so tightly his knuckles turned white. The Fanny leaned as the current tried to spin her toward the rocks. The water boiled and frothed around them, hissing against the hull. Joseph's heart pounded in his chest. "Steady, steady," the pilot murmured, his eyes fixed on the narrow passage. The men stood frozen, ready to follow any command. Joseph barely breathed. Then, in a rush, they were through. The water smoothed, and the ship sailed calmly into New York Harbor. Joseph let out a long breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He glanced at the pilot, still steady at the wheel, and thought, if you want to survive the sea, you must trust your pilot. Lesson for the journey. God is like the pilot of our lives. He sees dangers we cannot see and knows how to guide us safely through. If we trust Him and follow His voice, He will bring us through the rough waters. Bible verse: "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." Proverbs 3:5-6.